Yes, what's good, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Veterans Minimum Live from the Blue Wire studio here in Las Vegas. Shout out to the Wynn Casino. Shout out to the members of the Patreon. We got Nick Chavez, Ben Kotzian, Christopher Velasquez, Derek Platees, Devin Rendon, Jordan Riley, Mike Wozniak, who beat the shit out of me in fantasy this week. It's kind of wild. Honestly, you know, all this content we put out for you, you're just going to ragdoll me like that. That's cool, man. I see how it is. Nick Crummage, Thomas Robinson, thank you all for your contributions. If I happen to owe you merch, which I probably do, you know who you are. Don't feel as if you are being annoying by contacting me. I need you to because I'm an idiot and I forget these things. But please get in contact with me. You know who you are. The reason why I bring this up is because Thomas Robinson, you reached out to me, and that's exactly what I need you legends to do, to remind me, because I got a lot of shit going on, and I keep forgetting. I'm riding high on the Giants being 4-1. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but shout out to the members of the Patreon, patreon.com/veteransminimum. You can find everything there. On the other line, my guy wearing a shirt that is amazing. A shirt that, was that the shirt that you let me borrow that one time? What was that shirt you let me borrow?
No, that was Diaz versus anybody.
Let's go. Diaz Army, baby. My guy, Allen. What's good, bro?
Forever. Let's go, man. I want to put this shirt legalize hitting quarterbacks, but I didn't have the time to do it.
Dude, so that's a good way to open this conversation. It's been the biggest talking point. I know you had to be heated because it happened first on Sunday with Brady, and it happened with your team, a game in which I was, as someone that likes to dabble in sports betting, Alan, if you're not familiar, I had the Bucks -9. I was confident. They're up 21. I'm like, yeah, you know what? This is going to be easy. You know, typical Brady doing his stuff off a loss, a rare situation where it was off back-to-back losses. And then they take the foot off the pedal. Atlanta comes storming back. And as a better dude, when I have a team winning, like covering, when they have no chance of covering, I'm like, yo, fuck this team. I hope they lose outright. So I was rooting for Atlanta at that point. I was like, yo, forget it, man. They're not going to cover. What's the point of this? -9 ticket, $50 down the drain. And then the play happens on third down, right? Like the most textbook sack that you can have, right? It doesn't hit him high, it doesn't hit him low, wraps him up, takes him to the ground. As a Falcon fan, first off, how are you feeling about that decision and that play?
I don't think I've been livid about a game in like 5 years just because...
You were fired up on Twitter. I saw that.
Yeah, watching Falcon just makes you jaded after a while, but like this team is legitimately exciting, and I love the direction they're going. Like, even though they're completely overmatched against Tampa Bay, the feistiness, like this team just bowed back with no Kyle Pitts, Drake London largely marginalized. It was just a weird game where they were completely overmatched, but yet here they are. Literally one possession game, and it's clear they're about to get the stop. They run a great twist. Gray Jarrett gets free, just like in the Super Bowl where he had 3 sacks. I was funny. I was actually watching like those Super Bowl sacks because I just love punishment for my brain. Just watching those sacks, the Super Bowl. And I'm just wondering, were any of these sacks similar to this one? Like, this was back in 2017, so I don't know if it was the best comparison. It was like, no, these sacks are the exact same thing as what it was on Sunday, and yeah, to me, it's just one of the most blasphemous calls. There's no defense for it. I think everyone has the right to be outraged. And it's just, we've been seeing it, I would say, since 2018, where roughing the passer penalties have become more excessive. But I don't think it's been as egregious as it's been the last week between Sunday night game and Monday night game. It's just, I hate the point. Is like the defensive players have a really difficult job itself, just playing the game cleanly. Like, with everything that's going on in the game, just trying to make it a cleaner sport. But then, like, you just can't ask more from a defensive lineman at that moment. Like, what more do you want him to do? And it's just, I hate it for the defensive players because I just think they have it so hard. And look, I'm not going to get into Brady and him being called. I just think for the sake of the game, sake of being defensive linemen in particular, things have to be changed because we can't have fundamental plays being penalized and ultimately changing games, because it wasn't just this game. Like, we'll get into Vegas, Kansas City. That game got changed as well. And, if it wasn't for Hunter Renfrow barging into Devontae Adams, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, there's a lot that I agree with you on when it comes to that, because I feel as if it's gotten so ridiculous playing defense where everyone says the hardest thing to do in professional sports is hit a fastball from a major league pitcher. I think now the next closest thing to that is like playing defensive back in the NFL. First of all, you're backpedaling throughout the majority of the game. You're guarding some of the fastest guys in the league, and you do have to backpedal. And then also you can't hit no one, right? Like you hit them high, it's targeting, it's helmet to helmet, it's a personal foul. You hit them low, it's also a penalty too. And as a player, getting hit low got to be more devastating because you could blow out a knee. It could alter your career. Where a head injury, yeah, long term, that's more vicious. But a lot of these guys, I remember Tony Gonzalez came out and said, yo, hit me high every time. Because at least if you hit me high, I'm going to miss a half. I might miss a game or 2 weeks. As opposed to you hit me low, I blow out my knee. You saw that happening with Gronk through the prime years of Gronk. Him being a guy who you
Jimmy Graham
also, like these big body tight ends and these receivers would get hit low, and they didn't like that. They didn't want that. They rather get hit high. And to bring it to the quarterback position, look, it's the most important position on the field. We all know that. It's the one that makes the most money. It's also the one that kind of drives the NFL also. Like when there's bad quarterback play on TV, that shit is unwatchable. Watching the Colts and the Broncos on Thursday Night Football was a nightmare. Watching Daniel Jones and Justin Fields, Daniel Jones and Baker Mayfield, it becomes unwatchable when you have some of these backups. And yeah, you want to protect the quarterback, but to what extent, bro?
Yeah. You got another one coming tomorrow night.
I'm not watching that game. I'm not betting it. I'm not watching it. I'm going to gi jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna throw the blue belt on because I haven't shown that off yet since I got out here to Vegas. But yeah, when it's bad quarterback play, so I get it protecting them. But dude, these defensive players, man, you gotta give them some slack, right? It's enough that they get called for all these egregious penalties when the area of them hitting someone has gotten so small over the years. And it's such a snap reaction. Like I catch a pass over the middle, I go to tuck it in, and like you're aiming to hit me square in the chest or to wrap me up in my stomach, my waist area, and then I crunch down. Well, now, yeah, you were targeting at my waist, but if I get low enough, you're hitting my head. Now it's helmet to helmet, 15-yard penalty, to $20,000 fine. It's like, dude, what are we doing here?
Like, think of all the hand fine. Think of all the chipping they have to deal with. And then sometimes you have to go through traffic. Like, it's just, sometimes you run a lot of max protect. It's just, there's so much that goes into being defensive lineman. And then finally, you get that space. It's like, oh, wow, I'm actually in the quarterback's pocket now, or I'm chasing him out of the pocket. And then for something just so tacky, like, I think we could kind of decipher what is a penalty, what's not. Obviously, you want to use the crown of your helmet as a weapon. We've seen that. That's a penalty. You don't want to go low, I get that, but there's just certain moments like going full speed, or in both players' cases, great Jared Chris Jones, I don't even think it was necessarily full speed. I just think they got the angle and they made the sack, and it's just, I don't know, it's like there needs to be serious discussion because you just can't have games being decided like this. It's just, and just if you're a defensive lineman, like you could potentially miss out on plays. Like you have coaches preaching you play physical. Go 100 miles per hour, like give us your 110%. But then in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, if I hit this guy too hard, 15-yard penalty, and now I'm going to be criticized for it.
Dude, what do you think of the idea of that play happening with Chris Jones on Monday Night Football, like getting magnified even more because it was Monday night? Like people were outraged about what happened to Brady with Jared. But I think it being on Monday Night Football, it's the Dez Bryant thing all over again, right? Like the Dez Bryant catch, it was a playoff game. It was the Cowboys. It's national television. Everyone, and look, a lot of people watch Red Zone and shit, and they're watching these games too. Tampa Bay's because of Brady, they're a marquee team. I would say right now they're one of the better teams in the NFC. But you have that happen on Monday Night Football, very similar to Dez, where it happens in a playoff game. It's the Dallas Cowboys. It's the Green Bay Packers. And then what happens? That next year, they start challenging. They changed the catch rules, right? And then you had a couple years later, you had the Saints and the Rams game where you start challenging pass interference. But these are all subjective calls, which I think it was only like 10% of the challengeable pass interference calls got overturned? Because oftentimes they do get it right. But do you think that's where
I
we're
think
headed?
that was a colossal failure. The pass interference rule, that was a colossal failure. I don't think it was 1 year. Like, and I think once, what was it? It was like a Ravens game. It was Marlon Humphrey covering Will Fuller, or maybe it was DeAndre Hopkins on like a deep over, and it was a clear pass interference, and the refs refused to overturn it. Like the whole pass interference thing, that was a complete flat out waste of time. It was just, it should have been executed better, but ultimately it was like 1 year, and that was it. So I do think roughly the passer, why not have it be reviewed? I don't think it should be challenges, just because I don't think the team should necessarily be responsible for that. Like, I have to waste a challenge on a roughing the passer call that you probably should be able to make. So I just think it should be official review, kind of like how they review all scoring plays. Like, if there's something that's kind of controversial, they should be able to decide. But who knows? Ultimately, I just think there's got to be a better understanding of what is actually roughing the passer. I don't think this is too difficult to understand. It's not like a holding or a pass interference. I think where the referee is positioned, I think could determine what really is a roughing the passer.
I do think that they should do something about the challenging, or at least reviewing it, right? Because in challenge, you're right, where I got to waste a challenge on this one. What if I need it later on? But it should be like a touchdown.
Exactly.
Something that significant of a swing, or like in the NBA, where in the NBA, what they do is the last 2 minutes, all like, we both go for the ball and it tips off someone's hands. They review it. Like, they automatically review it. That should be something like that too, man. 2-minute drill, or the last drive in the fourth quarter, something like that. But then you look at Monday Night Football, that shit happened at the end of the second quarter. So it's like, when do we step in? It's just gotten so hard for defensive players. It's gotten really hard. And look, they're making their money on their sacks. Like, these guys now have they each got a sack that isn't accounted for moving forward. Maybe they have incentives that if I get to 15 sacks, I get $2 million extra. And what happens if Chris Jones ends up with 14? They'd be like, dude, what the hell? Like, you took money out of my pocket too. You cost us a game. For the Chiefs, they didn't, because they ended up winning that game anyway. But that was a massive swing too. That was like a 10-point swing there, because Kansas City's going in. Yeah. He's probably scoring, right? He's maybe scoring, because it looked like he had a convoy ahead of him. Or they're at least in field goal range. And I know Kansas City has the shitty kicker situation right now because Butker's been out, but still, man, that's a big swing, because then the Raiders go down and do what they did.
Yeah, I mean, totally changes swing of the games, and it's just like that's what's being decided on. It's just, look, we want integrity for the game, so for that to take place. And the worst thing was, like, when you saw the conversation being had after that play, kind of had that feeling in your mind, like, oh wow, they really might call roughing the passer. And then the Kansas City fans kind of identified it as they started building it. What do you know? They called roughing the passer, and it's just really deflating, because, like, we all love the game, and it's just, when you think something can be addressed and it shouldn't be an issue, you wish it was an issue. But this is clearly this is the biggest issue right now going on in the sport.
Dude, Chris Jones is listed at 6'6", 310 pounds, right? You're asking this guy to ease up and brace himself, like not fall completely all his weight on the quarterback. It's like, how do you want that to be possible? First of all, this guy's an edge rusher coming off the corner to get to the quarterback, so he's going full speed. Now he needs to worry about, well, I can't hit him high, I can't hit him low. All right, let me get him here. And now you have to add the new wrinkle of, you can't put all your weight on him. It's like, yo, what is going on, dude? At what point are we going to give some love to the defensive players? And Warren Sharp on Twitter put out a clip of Chris Jones explaining that situation, and I'm going to tweet it out from Veterans Minimum so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But I think the way Chris Jones handled it was, like, superb. And he mentions a lot of what we're saying.
Couldn't have been more mature. Yeah, he did it right.
Yeah, basically what he was saying, just to reiterate, is like, yo, there's no protection for us also. Like, there's a lot of protection for the offensive players, but for us, we can't do our job the way things are being officiated. And there's also there's no precedent on these decisions too. Dude, anytime I watch football now and it's a 3rd and 8 or a 3rd and 2 and it's an incomplete pass, I'm fully expecting, until the ball is punted away, I'm expecting a flag to come in. For real. It's gotten so bad. It used to be the DBs all the time where it's like, yo, they get a third down stop. Here comes a flag. Here comes a holding or whatever it might be. Now it's like across the board. When I see a team punt, there's a part of me that's like, oh, no flags? Interesting. I'm just always expecting some shit to go down. Tell me not, though. How often is there a 3rd and 7 and your team needs a stop, they get a stop, and then a flag comes in? Late, too. We're talking about, like, the DB is like, fucking walking around with his balls and shit out. He's like, celebrating. And then the flag comes in.
It could happen. Yeah.
Happens a lot.
Trying to think. I don't know if it's as excessive though. I think it just varies on the actual game itself. Like because some officials are totally like the guy Jerome Booger, however you want to phrase his name. Like he's like 65 years old. Like they're just. I just think also we could use younger refs. Get people that are actually more acclimated with the current game. The NFL is changing so rapidly. We have people that have such an outdated mentality. Games can be affected.
Well, I think also having like referees be full time would be helpful.
Well, that's been a battle for years.
Yeah.
Like think about it, like we're 10 years removed from the whole debacle in 2012 with the referees. Those first 4 games that replacing referees. Oh man, what a nightmare that was.
Man.
It took the Packers essentially losing a game for things to be addressed.
And again, that happened on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, Golden Tate.
It's a real thing when it happens in prime time. When it happens in prime time, it gets magnified tenfold.
Which it shouldn't. Like to be with having Chris Jones, like yeah, it's very unfortunate, but like the whole great Jared Tom Brady, that moment that should have just really ignited the conversation. Like, and then Chris Jones was just icing on that cake. But it's just you can't have the integrity of the game being destroyed like this. Like you just can't. Like this game's so close. Like it's really fine margins. We see with football how many games are 1-score games. Like look at the Raiders. Like they won 7 games last year by 1 score less. This year, all 4 of their losses are by 1 score less. I think they have lost by a combined 14 points in their 4 games. Like we know how close the sport can be. So any sort of controversial play, you're going to feel it.
Hey, man, who tried telling you about 1-score games, bro?
I mean, we've been talking about it for years.
That's been like
Seattle got away with it for a bit.
Right.
That's about it. That's
Seattle did get away with it. They're the exception. And there was like a Green Bay year too. But also like they had at the time, like Russ was an elite quarterback and obviously Aaron Rodgers. But that's a real thing, man. Professional sports bettors for years have always spotlighted turnover margin, strength of schedule, and your record in 1-score games. Those are the 3 biggest indicators to what you can potentially handicap for a team moving into the next season. It's hard for you, bro. Like you said, 7-2 in 1-score games last year with the Vegas Raiders, and they went undefeated in overtime. That's not going to happen, dude. There's going to be calls that go your way. There's going to be the ball's going to bounce your way. Your guy's going to fumble, and then there's going to be a 9-person pile-up, and out of nowhere, Derek Carr ends up with the ball. Well, this year, it's not ending up in Derek Carr's hands. Or Hunter Renfrow ends up fumbling back-to-back. Like, there's a lot of shit that goes into it that you just can't account for year in, year out. That's why that 1-score record is so damn important.
You got Kyler Murray running for 25 seconds and somehow ending up in the end zone. That's what you know.
Hey, man, I want to play this game with you called Foul or No Foul. I have a list of a couple of things here, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Is it foul that this happened, or is it not foul as it expected? And staying with the NFC South, right? Staying with moving to the Carolina Panthers, I should say. Matt Rule got fired. Got fired after 3 seasons, 11-27 record. Check this out. In the next 4 years, Alan, he's going to be making $834,000 a month. Is that not the best way to ever get fired? Making $800,000.
I mean, he capitalized on that new ownership. Tepper came in. Tepper believed in him because when Rule came in, pretty much that's when the whole Jared Richardson scandal happened and Ron Rivera got fired. So Carolina was in full overhaul mode, and they got the new owner. The new owner said, "I'm going to believe in you." And oh man, what a disaster that's become.
before we get into the nitty gritty of Matt Rule in particular, do you think this ends the big money being paid to college coaches to come coach in the NFL? Because
No, I think owners will still be tempted.
will you be tempted? Yeah, there's a lot of things that people are tempted by, but I think you've seen it time and time again. These like offensive Chip Kelly out the league, right? You got Matt Rule now. You had Nick Saban came and then he went. Worked out for Saban amazing. I think he would do that shit any day of the week. And time again, he would make that same decision. But I think this idea of these college coaches being given the reins like Matt Rule got, I think those days are out the window.
I don't think they would get a 7-year contract necessarily, but I still think college coaches will attract attention. I just think owners, if they see a hotshot offensive mind, they'll take a chance on it. So I don't like I said, I don't think they'll get the blockbuster contract, but look, owners do some highly questionable things, and I wouldn't rule out them doing it again.
Are you surprised by Matt Rule getting fired?
Not at all. To me, he probably should have been fired last offseason. I just think Carolina, there's no identity with them. If anything, their defense has played relatively well. They actually have accumulated a decent amount of talent through drafts and trades. It's just the offense. You just don't know what it is. Like, okay, I know McCaffrey injuries have not helped, but there's nothing to build. Like, I think what was the record? They're like 1-18 when if a team, their opponent scored 17 points or more. Like, so you're telling me that if the opponent scores pretty much 20 points, we're done? Like, it's just there was never an identity there offensively, and I just never forgot about the quarterback position. Like, it was just a mess. And I know there was some promising signs the first year, but I just think things got so toxic. You just kind of knew it was quickly going to unravel, and everyone just looked overwhelmed. He never looked comfortable, especially once Joe Brady got fired. So to me, it's not foul at all. It's long overdue.
And dude, like, it's not a bad offensive roster, bro. Like, there's worse ones in the league. Like, you have a top 5 running back. You have a $20 million wide receiver. You got Robbie Anderson. Like, yeah, the offensive line is still rebuilding, but I think there's worse offensive talent in the league. It's the quarterback that you haven't been able to figure out. Yeah, which is massive, right? Without a doubt. It's definitely massive. But, like, yo, you should be able to muster at least 20 points, I would assume. And it was, and I was happy. I tweeted this out, man, before, because every Sunday there is a game, Alan. And I know you're not much of a bettor. I do the betting for you, right? There's always a line on Sunday that you look back on, and obviously hindsight is 20/20. But you look back and you're like, how the hell was that team only a 6-point favorite? How were they only a 7-point or 2-point? They were an underdog and they win by 20. And I tweeted that out about San Francisco. I'm like, yo, how is San Francisco a 6-point underdog playing Carolina? Like, how's Carolina going to score? It would need to be a Jimmy G meltdown where it's like 2 interceptions returned, a kick return. Like, it would have to be something outrageous like that. And then I was happy in my pool. I had a rough week, bro. I went 1-3-1. I pushed with the Browns.
Yikes.
I only hit on San Francisco. I got scared off the Bills line. I was like, yo, 14 points. Oh, no, man. They're looking ahead to Kansas City. They had that game covered by halftime. I lost on Tampa, like I mentioned. I bet against my team, which I love doing. I can't believe the Giants ended up winning that game outright, too. They didn't cover. But the thing that I switched was San Francisco. I ended up putting San Francisco in because I'm like, man, they're just like, there's no way Carolina could keep up with them. And the game was like over by halftime also. And the reason why I say all this is because I think they need to do a complete rebuild. Like, they need to, these big contracts with McCaffrey and more, you need to try to get rid of them at the trade deadline. And I know I saw your tweet. You're like, yo, Green Bay, pick up the phone. And I wanted to tweet at you and be like, bro, how many years we've been doing this show where every trade deadline we're like, yo, Green Bay, go get Manny Sanders, go get Odell, go get this guy. Now it's DJ Moore.
Fingers crossed somehow. I won't hold my breath. It's just that NFC couldn't be more wide open and vulnerable, and Green Bay has never been in worse shape. But this isn't a conversation about Green Bay. But what did you think with rule? Foul or no foul?
Nah, man, I think it was justified. I don't think it's foul at all. I think this is like what needed to be done. There's just no life, right? There's no life. If you're a bad team like Seattle, right? I like Seattle, man. They've won a couple games. They're not getting blown out. Geno's playing well. They got some skill players. The defense is, getting lit up, but at least they're showing life. That was the big issue that I had with the Giants the last couple of years. It's like, you're getting smoked by 20, by 30. All right, you're retiring Eli's jersey, Michael Strahan, excuse me, and you're down 28-0 to the Rams at home. It's like, dude, just show some life. Right? Like that, to me, if you're a young team and you're rebuilding, bro, you got to show some life. You can't just be getting thumped. Like even Detroit. I know Detroit is a bad example because they got shut out last week. But, man, if you're a young team, you got to be able to at least, like, show me something, bro. And, like, with Carolina, it's just lifeless.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, though, because I do feel like what job do you think is going to be coveted more? Oh, this is a bad one. I already know your answer, but say Staley gets fired, right? Would you rather take a job in Los Angeles with the Chargers where you have the established quarterback, or would you want to go to a team like Carolina where you can have a complete rebuild and start from the ground up?
I mean, there's no debate. I'm going to Chargers in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
Give me that quarterback. Give me the assets. Yeah, it's a crazy conference, but yeah, I just at least have something to build there. Like, don't get me wrong, being an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, it's cool taking over a whole rebuilding project, but look, there's not a lot of patience now in the NFL. Like, I used to think it was 3 years. It's becoming slowly 2 years. If you can't figure it out by year 3, it's your hot seat's burning. Like at this point, I hate to say it, and I hope it doesn't happen. But if things continue to go like this in Detroit, Dan Campbell will probably be on the hot seat going into 2023. And if he gets off to a rough start, he probably will be fired. Like it's not 3 years anymore; it's 2.5, pretty much. So, for coaches that are taking a rebuilding job, you gotta get to work quick. Otherwise, you might get canned.
Dude, you get 1 year with no, like, don't go 0 for 17. But you get 1 year, I think, in the NFL where it's like, all right, you won 3-4 games. It's cool. It's a new regime. These aren't your players. These are the old regime. But then in year 2, you got to get some wins, right? Like, let's look at Robert Saleh. Prime example. Last year, what did I tell you? I was like, in 3 years, they're going to need a new coach. Year 1 was a nightmare. But young quarterback gets hurt, all these new, not excuses, it's reasons, it's valid reasons. He couldn't go into this year and win only 3 games. Like, you got to show me, you got to at least double your wins. So it's like, all right, we're moving in the right direction. And then year 3, you've had your input on the draft, right? You've had a draft class now for 2-3 years. Now you got to show me some results. So I agree with you, man. And that's what you saw with Matt Rule in a way, where this was year 3 for him. And at this point, there's just no life. Like, if they were losing games by 1 score, I don't think he gets fired. But it's just no
Or just
life.
Progression offensively, yeah. So
yeah, if you're putting up 40 points and you end up losing, then yeah, man, shit just wasn't your day. But when you're just lifeless like this, it's a rough look.
Robert Saleh, I wonder if he has your receipt.
Well, I know some of the Jet homies definitely do. Because I'm hearing about it too. Because I was like, they might win 2 games by their bye week. And then, of course, they win 2 games that they were underdogs in that I didn't expect them to win. But we'll get to the Jets at a different time. Let's talk about a QB controversy. Is it foul or not foul what's happening in Dallas and what's happening in New England with the backup quarterbacks either playing well and winning, or Cooper Rush is winning more, Zappy coming off a win. How do you feel about that? Is there a QB controversy?
I think it's extremely foul. Like, you look at New England and Dallas, their past few performances. To me, it's a collective team effort. Dallas They're not the best defense in the league. They're number 2. It's them in San Francisco. Everyone else is tier below in my book. And I think Dallas is running the ball really well, and their offensive line has made some significant strides. Dallas offensive line, they're not at that elite level, but wow, they are moving people. And then New England, like you saw against Green Bay, against Detroit, just they were battling defensively, and they're leaning on their running game. So it's big. Look, all the quarterbacks, they're getting their well structured play designs. They're getting the nice game plans, doing a lot of play action. They got the high percentage of looks, but to me, it's just like, come on, Dak Prescott, Mac Jones. There's tiers to this. So yeah, I think it's extremely foul. Any talk of quarterback controversy, but that's what you're going to get when teams are winning so convincingly.
Yeah, I think the one in New England is a little ridiculous. I think you have enough of a sample size where I personally wouldn't go back to Dak right now.
Why?
What, you would go back to Dak?
I go to if Dak's healthy, I'm putting him in on Sunday night.
All right, so what happens? You put him in Sunday night and they just get throttled because he's not fully. Dude, he hasn't thrown. Like, this is the first week that he's.
I mean, yeah, when he's ready, obviously you're not gonna rush it because look, Dallas in a prime position right now. What do they have to rush? They have the winning recipe. If you lose to Philly, it's like okay, just one loss. But when Dak is 100%, this is absolutely his team.
Mm.
Cooper Rush is the game manager. I think it's pretty clear. I think he's very intelligent in how he moves, but his arm's below average. And like you watch that Rams game, they pretty much playing not to lose. And at some point, you can't play not to lose. And I just don't think how you could have a passing game with Cooper Rush against the upper echelon in the NFC. You can't.
Man, but he's not. I don't know, dude. I think the team plays better with him.
How?
You don't think that there's something to when Dak is in there and then with Cooper Rush, like you haven't seen it's not a 1 game sample size. This has been going on now. He hasn't lost yet. And I don't
No, but they're not winning. They're not winning because of him. They're winning in spite of him.
Okay, that's fair. But I don't think the drop off between the two is that drastic, bro.
Maybe it's not as drastic, but I don't know what when it comes to big throws, when it comes to like being those third long situations, I don't know how you could trust Cooper Rush. I just think the way they're protecting right now kind of shows you, okay, the coach still understands his limitations. With Prescott, it's like there's no limitations. Like we're gonna get him in for a runner offense. If anything, I just think what they're doing right now, I wish they actually did more with Prescott. They're using a lot more motion, a lot more condensed formations. I feel like the way they're running this offense for Cooper Rush, they should do more for Dak. Stop being so dependent on Dak to just make that tight window throw. Actually make the effort and get him some high percentage looks. So no, I there's no comparing the two to me. I just wish the coaching would be better when Dak is in.
I just feel as if when you have a quarterback that's like if Mahomes or Allen got hurt and then their backups won 4 games in a row, the moment those guys are healthy, they're going in there, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, no question they're going in. But when you have the Alex Smiths of the world, when you have, I feel like Dak Prescott, I don't think they're that elite that they can just walk back into their job, bro. When the other guy is winning.
What an insult. Dak Prescott, Alex Smith.
I'm thinking about guys. Yeah, different style of quarterback. But I'm thinking about the dude that
when healthy, Dak Prescott's a top 10 quarterback. Alex Smith's top 15, top 20 at best. When Alex Smith in his prime. Alex Smith's somewhat of a game manager. Maybe a little bit better just because he can move around a bit. But look, when Dak's healthy, I think he has all the capabilities of being a top 10 quarterback. I know he's had his rough moment. Let's not pretend he's not played like an MVP candidate through stretches of his career.
Yeah, but right now, I just think that they're on the winning streak, man. And I really don't. They're gonna because they also pay him, right? It's the reason why they play Zeke over Pollard because they're paying Zeke. Like I think it was Ryan. Go on.
Zeke still has some value. Like I understand, there's always gonna be clamor for Tony Pollard. And yes, Tony Pollard deserves more reps, but look, I think Zeke he still has a role in that offense. Not, it should be like a 10 to 15 carries at most role, but you know, I, Zeke's not useless. That's what I'll say.
All right. Let's move to the last foul or no foul, and it's Carson Wentz being thrown under the bus by Ron Rivera. He came out and said they asked him why all the other teams in the division are either undefeated or 4-1 and playing good football, and he said the quarterback completely throws his quarterback under the bus. Then he later apologizes, which to me, Alan, like I know nowadays things get blown out of proportion, and just like how our climate is and how society is, in my opinion. This one was one of those heat of the moment things, and then he had to backtrack and he came out and he apologized to Carson Wentz, and we could win with Carson Wentz and whatnot. Is it foul what he said, or is it just the truth? And the truth hurts because Carson Wentz has not been playing well this year.
Carson Wentz hasn't been playing well. We kind of know he's a liability, but I think it's foul just purely because there's so many other issues in Washington, like how you come off a really bad season, you only make any sort of personnel changes coaching wise. Like to me, I have no idea how Jack Del Rio is still defensive coordinator, and that's on Ron Rivera. You look at Washington year in and year out, almost top of the league in penalties. You see the coverage breakdowns. Like they're just an undisciplined team, and it comes to the point. It's like, okay, we have a lot of respect for Ron Rivera, but he's eventually got to look at the past 2, 3, 4 years, and it's ugly. So no, I do think it was unnecessary. I think it was a bit of a narrow-minded comment. Yeah, it could be heat of the moment, but I just think no. Like there, you watch your team on film, there are a lot more issues than just the quarterback position. Like this is not a good football team, and ultimately falls on you. And I do think Ron Rivera was fouled for that, and I think he should be on the hot seat.
I mean, he's definitely on the hot seat because but they've actually been competitive in games where Carolina hasn't been. But I think Ron Rivera has been there for a while, and that's been another team that hasn't really been able to figure out the quarterback position. And to me, I think it's not foul what he said, but also we don't know if he said that to him in private first. He was, like if someone aired me out like that, if they came to me first and we were like, yo, look, dude, this is how I feel about everything that's going down, I'm going to take this to the press. I have no issues with that. Now, if I'm blindsided by it, like how Carson Wentz was, then maybe I could see why Carson Wentz and why things are being blown out of proportion like this. How do you feel about that? Like being aired out in private and then in public? Or do you think it's the same thing, like just don't air me out?
I just don't think it's necessary from a head coaching standpoint. I think there's better ways to handle it, and I just think you gotta be more aware. Like, come on, you're looking at the Giants, Eagles, Cowboys' success. All three of those teams, it's a collective effort. Like as great as Jalen Hurts plays, we know how well Philly has built their roster. So to me, just for Ron Rivera to strictly put on the quarterback, I think he just kind of shows like maybe just purely out of touch, or he's just looking for an easy way out. But to me, it was a very nonsensical comment, and I think he's better than that.
All right, let's move into our games of the week. Some bangers, bro. Some really good ass games.
This is a sensational week of football we got coming.
Yeah, it could be some conference previews, conference championship previews. I want to open up though with one that I would do a lot of weird shit, Alan, for this team to be in a conference championship, and that's the New York Giants. New York Giants, baby. I don't know how, but we're 4-1. We're out here. They're playing the Baltimore Ravens, coming off a big win against the Cincinnati Bengals. Justin Tucker again, just like, yo, where's Justin Tucker on your list of like most valuable, not players, but most valuable asset to a team?
I don't know. It's hard to rank him, but he's going to be on top of the list just because it's guaranteed in a one possession game or a tied game, whatever it may be. Shouldn't say one possession, 3-score game. Like if he gets the opportunity, you are going to win. Like we've seen how much kicking could be an issue for teams. Like for Baltimore to have the dependability week in and week out, it's an absolute game changer. So look, I don't know if he's top 10, top 20, but when you look at the most valuable skill position players across the NFL, Justin Tucker is absolutely there because he literally wins games.
Dude, I think he would be at the top of the list. Not number one,
Yeah.
but he'd be like in the top 5 because
Yeah,
he's
I'm not going to dispute that. That's cool.
he's the best kicker of all time. He's not the most accomplished. That's
Yes.
clearly Vinatieri, but he is the best kicker of all time. He's the most accurate.
Yeah.
He's hit clutch field goal every time. Indoors, outdoors, sleet, rain, it doesn't matter. Like if you get in field goal range with him, he had a 67-yarder with in Detroit last year, was it? The longest field goal ever.
Yeah.
Like
It was, yes.
This dude, if you need a field goal, he'll get it for you. And I think there's so many kicker issues in the league that having that is such a relief for Baltimore. And that's been a big part of this success. And this week they play the Giants. The Giants are at home, coming off a London game, which I'm a little upset about that. I don't like when a team doesn't take the bye week after. But then you could say last week, both teams that played in London both won their games, Minnesota and the Saints. Now this week you have the Giants playing after a London game, and you also have the Packers playing after a London game. This one,
at least they're home games, which are nice. Both teams get to play at home.
That's true. And last week it was the same thing too. So I wonder if that was built into the schedule.
That's the one positive.
Yeah. No, that's a good take for sure. This one, everyone is making out to be the Wink Martindale revenge game. The former DC for the Ravens. He has been able to, the Giants defense I felt like was going to be the strength of the team coming into the year. And then if they could get the running game going. So both of those things that I thought could be the reason why the Giants would be successful this year are happening, and that's why they're 4-1. He does a lot of dope shit, from blitz packages, corners coming off the edge, linebacker, like Thibodeau's dropping back into coverage.
Heavy man coverage.
Like he's going all out. And then you're looking at this Ravens team who Duvernay has been a little bit of a revelation for them. Like he was a bona fide returner, but last week he got a bunch of big plays thrown him or dialed up to him too. I know Lamar missed him on a deep one also. But I do think the recipe for success for the Giants defense would be to try to stop 89. All right, Mark Andrews, I think right now, him and Kelsey are head and shoulders above everyone else at that position in the NFL. There's a massive drop. Like for as good as Darren Waller is, I think it's them two, and then it's where we get the Wallers of the league. And I'm fascinated to see what they do with Mark Andrews and the Ravens this weekend, Alan.
Yeah, it's a very exciting coaching matchup in particular because I don't think the Harbaugh-Martindale split was amicable. I think there was some animosity there, and which is unfortunate because Martindale had a legendary run in Baltimore. And I think if he wasn't, like, was he 65 with a mullet, defensive coordinator, like I think he could have easily been a head coach, but I think they stereotyped him in. That's the reason why he probably will never be a head coach. But he's phenomenal. Like when the Giants got him in Daboll, I was like, well, okay, this team has a real coaching staff now. And I think it's paying off because personnel-wise, I still think the Giants have a below-average roster, but they are so well coached and they are just out-scheming teams left and right. And they do have a couple of young players emerging where it's just like, okay, they're going to be competitive week in and week out. And they're going to make some teams look silly. And boy, they made Green Bay look silly. But I think now going up against a Baltimore team that is, for the most part, is pretty well coached, that's such a dynamic quarterback, this is a tricky matchup. But I do think it's a 50-50, though, just because I think Baltimore, for all their success so far this season, I do think they've been one of the bigger disappointments because I just don't like where they're going offensively. And besides last week, I think their defense has been kind of vulnerable.
I think the biggest indicator to whether or not you have a good coaching staff is in-game adjustments. It's easy for you to come in on Monday and make your decisions and say, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that. Can you make decisions on the fly? Alan, the New York Giants in second half of games are dominating teams. Last week, they outscored the Green Bay Packers 17-2. The two coming on a safety. This season,
essentially shut them out.
Yeah, they shut them out in the second half. Yeah, basically. Yeah, exactly. The Giants have outscored their first 5 opponents by a combined 70-39 over the final 2 quarters of games. Their average second half point differential is plus 6.2. Only the Bills and the Bengals have better ratings. One of them would have been obvious in Buffalo because they've been just such a buzzsaw. Cincinnati was a little bit surprising, but they're also built as a team that can outscore you. Like they're built on their offense being the catalyst for their success. And to me, dude, like that's the biggest thing. You have how long is a halftime? 20 minutes? Less? It's like
15.
Yeah, 15 minutes. So you're in there, you're making your adjustments, and then you come out, and the Packers looked clueless in that game, in that second half. And Aaron Rodgers on the McAfee show, he put over Dexter Lawrence, and he was like, dude, this guy is he's an elite.
Looking like a wrecker.
He's an elite player, man. He doesn't get the recognition. And then you also have Leonard Williams coming back at some point. So the defense is only going to improve, and it is the strength. Now, how do you deal with Lamar Jackson? Because the one thing that Baltimore does is it seems like they don't unleash him until they need to. Like he's running in games that matter and in spots that matter the most. Remember against the Jets, he wasn't really doing that. It's like, we can handle it without. But he ran against Buffalo. He ran against the Bengals. And I think now, depending on how this game plays out, I think you'll see him running against the Giants as well.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like Bateman's going to play, and that's a big loss because they just don't have the receivers. I do like Duvernay. I do think he's coming on. It's just someone that you could scheme up a couple things for, and he could just run a couple of reverses, and he just has that explosiveness you need in offense. But besides that, it's a tough stretch of that offense, receiver wise, and I do think one of the bigger X factors is just I was perplexed at how bad Baltimore was stopping the run. Like Cincinnati, to me, besides Pittsburgh, Cincinnati has had the worst running game in the league. And it was like the first time all year Joe Mixon was picking up 6 to 8 yards a pop, and Cincinnati was moving them. So I'd be very concerned if I was Baltimore, just how overmatched they looked up front and how undisciplined they were, because it's not what you expect from a Baltimore team. And you look every game, you see Saquon running wild, and the Giants they're funky the way they're running it. Like Daniel Jones with the option, what they did with Saquon, the Wildcat, that big run. Because if you get Saquon open field, like one of the funniest things I've seen so far this season was with Saquon and Adrian Amos. Adrian Amos was like backing up 8 yards. He looked so scared to go, and eventually he just like kind of tripped on his own feet and missed the tackle. Like Saquon's bringing fear to these defenders' hearts, and like if you give him an open field, good luck. So there's a lot of favorable matchups here for Giants for them to exploit. Like I think Baltimore, I praise them a lot for how they built their roster and their coaching, but it's just certain aspects I'm just like, no, it's week 5. This has to be addressed. This has to be corrected, and it hasn't yet.
You think the Giants can continue winning games the way they're playing offense? Or at some point, is it going to come down to you got to have wide receivers that can make plays? Because I think Saquon's the best running back in the league. I said it after week 1 as like a hot take, but that clip is like aging really, really well. And as long as he's healthy, this is the kind of player that we always assume that he could be, and we've seen him be. But dude, you can't have like Kadarius Toney has been a nightmare since he got here. Kenny Golladay has been beyond that. Richie James is your number 1 wide receiver. Stills comes in. You lost Shepard. Like, yeah, all these.
Nice to see Slade make some plays.
Slayton, yeah, I was excited. I've always been a Slayton guy. I always felt like he was a really good receiver, just underutilized. And for the most part, him and Daniel Jones have always had a good connection. So that was nice to see. He was also in the doghouse throughout the summer in the first couple of weeks. So maybe that could be something new that is going to come to this offense, even though he's been there for a while. But you know that there's going to be teams that are just going to go all in on stopping Saquon Barkley. And like Daniel Jones, he already has these ankle issues. He's probably the best running. He's like the most efficient running quarterback in the league. He doesn't run often, but when he does, it's like very like calculated, and the play calls that are designed for him to run, he's like highly successful. But I don't think that's sustainable, bro. And it's not. It's not. It's like a very high school type of offense that you're running. But it's working right now. And Dable, they play for this dude. And it's not just that he's a player's coach. He's also making these adjustments that we're seeing too, bro.
Yeah. No, it's just to me watching their running game work week in and week out. It's phenomenal. Like that Packers, that second half, they were just getting chunk plays left and right. And like you get Saquon open field, we know what he could do, the damage that could be caused. So, and then the offensive line, Andrew Thomas looking like a top 5 left tackle, and even some of the lesser known names you see there, like they were moving Green Bay really well. And like Green Bay's invested a lot defensively. Like, I'm not sure if they're top five most, but we know Green Bay. Like, they've really tried to build their defense, and I thought the Giants had really punked them out in that second half. Kudos to them. And we were talking a little about defensive. I really like Xavier McKinney and Julian Love. I think those are two players to look out for. Just if you watch like young Giants defensive players coming up, because I know Tidwell gets all the praise, and Dexter Lawrence, who I think between Dexter Lawrence and Vita Vea, I hope maybe this starts something where we don't just right away destroy a prospect that's a nose tackle. Like, just because the NFL is a pass league doesn't mean a 345-pound nose tackle can't be effective. Like, because I remember Vita Vea pick got roasted, the Dexter Lawrence pick got roasted. Oh, how do you pick this player in the first round? Like, what are you going to do with them? No, these guys could be game wreckers. They could open up space for players to make plays, and they could generate some pass rush. So, big ups to the Giants. Look, David Gettleman, you picked Dexter Lawrence. It's looking pretty well.
Yeah, do me a favor. Don't mention that name again for as long as you talk about the Giants.
I mean, look, some things work out.
Yeah, listen, if you throw 150 different things at the wall, you would hope like one or two sticks. So,
hey, that kind of happened with was Saquon during that era?
Yeah, that was his draft pick.
Okay, all right. So some things are panning out.
Yo,
but no, this is a really cool game. I'm generally like, it was hard for me to pick this.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you this. As a Giants fan, I feel way more confident them being an underdog at home as opposed to them being a favorite. There's something about them that they do very well as an underdog historically, especially at home. They're a 5.5-point underdog right now. That's probably where I would lean, because you have the Giants who make these second half adjustments and then cut games close or win those games in the second half. And then you have a team in Baltimore who right now, I don't really trust them with a lead. Because it used to be they go up 10 on you, they go up 14 on you, it's a wrap because of the way their offense is built. But we've seen them blow these leads. Their losses this year are losses that last year's iteration of the Ravens and the year before, like this Harbaugh Lamar era, they don't lose those kind of games. So it's fascinating to see. Yeah. Yeah. And that might come back to like really haunt them, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Like seeding wise.
Breakdowns.
Yeah. I'm going to go. They're going to pull me in, dude. I think the Giants win this game.
Ooh.
I really do. I think the Giants win this game, and I hope it's not like years past where, like, I get suckered in. I think I've seen enough so far that this team is going to play hard. They're not going to get blown out, and they're at home. Yo, I'm telling you, bro, talking to Giants fans back home that are season ticket holders, there is an excitement level that hasn't been around in a very long time. And I'm talking about past the before the 2016 season. Because the 2016 season the team wasn't good. They just went and spent all that money in the offseason, and they hit home runs on all those guys that they ended up bringing in free agency. They got the best corner. They got the best defensive end. They got the best defensive tackle. So, like, they just spent so much money. But this is like, a lot of these players have been drafted, and you have the new regime, and you have Saquon Barkley, who's playing at such a high level. And you have Daniel Jones, who they didn't pick up the 5th-year option for, and he's playing on a prove-it deal. And I think both things could be true. He's playing better than he's ever played, but he's also not the answer for them moving forward. And I always think about what you told me one time prior to that 2016 season. You were like, dude, are you excited for the game? I'm like, yo, I think they're going to lose to Green Bay. And you're like, bro, stop with that shit. It's hard to make the playoffs. Embrace it. Enjoy it. I was like, yo, you know what? I'm going to enjoy it. And it's the same thing with Daniel Jones. Like, I don't think he's going to be the future for the Giants, but right now he's playing better. He's not having those catastrophic interceptions or turnovers that are going to ruin your team. So, yeah, I think both things could be true, bro. He's playing really well this year in comparison to what we've seen, and I don't think he's the answer moving forward. And with all that, I think the Giants win this game, and they move to 5-1.
Wow. Just saying 5-1 New York Giants.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it, bro. It's been so long.
Sundays at 10 a.m. for you. Got 10 times more enjoyable. With this. Look, if the Giants had a slightly better roster, I would probably pick them. But I still think they're still a work in progress with that roster. And I do think they've kind of, look, the schedule has been favorable before the Green Bay game. We know those are favorable. I still think the Ravens have enough juice, both offensively and defensively. Especially, I think you're concerned about the Ravens playing lead, but if the Giants go down 2 possessions and Daniel Jones has to throw to Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters, I could see one of them making a huge play. So I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think they're going to win a nail biter. I don't know if they're able to contain Lamar. This might be one of those games where Lamar has like 15 rushes where he has to play hero ball. So I'm going to go with the Ravens.
I like it when we disagree.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's see how
this is the week. This is a tough week, man.
Well, this next one, I'm definitely curious to see where you're going to be at, and I'm going to go to Kansas City. Kansas City's playing Buffalo. This is the game of games. This is the game of the year so far. And Absolutely. As I was trying to look through the schedule, I think this might be the game of the year, even moving forward. There's not an intriguing matchup like this on the horizon. Outside of like if you're going to get into Chargers, Chiefs, which that's like a lot of preseason hype, but like how realistic are the expectations for the Chargers? Yeah, I can hear the groaning.
I'm tired of the Chargers, man. I'm just
yeah. No, I feel you. So like I really think this is the game of the year. Like I don't think we're going to see a better game moving forward, and it's the game between the Bills and the Chiefs, right? The Kansas City Chiefs. This is the first time that Pat Mahomes is an underdog at home in the regular season in his career.
I think 40. This is the 42nd game. I think Adam Schefter tweeted. It was like the first 41, he was the favorite. Now this is his 42nd.
That just tells you how damn good Buffalo is right now. Like Buffalo, yo, here's the thing about Buffalo, bro. And I said this when they played Miami. When they play a close game, it never goes their way. Some weird shit happens. Guys forget that they could spike the ball or they don't get out of bounds. Like weird stuff happens in these Buffalo games.
Well, they just beat the Ravens 2 weeks ago in the narrow. It was a narrow game.
Okay, they did, but
it came on like a 98, almost a 98-yard drive.
Yeah, but then you also had the fourth down stuff that was going on with the Ravens, and they also had to claw back, right? They had to claw back. Yeah. But yeah, there are exceptions. Do they win one-score games? Yeah, they do. But oftentimes, it doesn't go their way, which is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, they're going to go. So now you have Kansas City. They're at home. They're the underdog. They're coming off a nail-biter of a win. That came down to the wire also, especially when you factor in the kicking issues that Kansas City has had. And this is – you have a lot of things going in Buffalo's favor, right? You have the revenge factor, a game that you play that game 100 times. How many times do you lose that game with 13 seconds left? In Kansas City last year, right? In the playoff game, in the divisional round. So you lost to them. This has been the team that you can't get over the hump in the playoffs. Last year, they beat them in Kansas City, also a similar spot where these two teams played. And you got the two quarterbacks right now, and no disrespect to Jalen Hurts, these are the two best quarterbacks in the league playing at the highest level. Like the actual quarterback position, there's no one playing quarterback better than these two guys. And again, it's going to come down to one of these two teams. And if you're Buffalo, I think you're weighing this game more than if you're Kansas City, because I don't think Buffalo can go into Kansas City in the playoffs and beat them. And I know Kansas City last year lost to Cincinnati at home, but having to go to Buffalo in January is going to be a nightmare for these teams. They don't know what they're getting into. Shit is cold up there. It's not fun. And I think this is a bigger game for Buffalo than it is for Kansas City. What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely a bigger game for Buffalo just based on the history. But I do think there are elements to this Bills team that's different. Like Von Miller, wow. Like I had a feeling it was going to be a hit signing. He's actually surpassed expectations for me. Like he's making a difference week in and week out. I thought he was going to be more of just a situational pass rusher where you'll see flashes. But no, there's been stretches of dominance from him. So you have that. And this playmaker is like James C. Crowder, IR, Isaiah McKenzie. He's concussion protocol. Dawson Knox out, but then Shakir out of nowhere. And like he's making really tough catches across the middle of the field. So it's just the depth of playmakers. And then defensively, like I saw Tre'Davious White is practicing now. I'm not sure if this is a week to bring him back, but I think you trust Sean McDermott's judgment. But it's just, I think on every level, the way the Bills have constructed this roster, you're seeing them do better and better. Like Elam's starting to get more confident. I know losing Micah Hyde was a huge loss, but you still have players. So just everywhere you look at the Bills roster, just like anywhere it's like, okay, they're dealing with some injuries here. Maybe they're not quite hitting here at the running back position, but it's just more times than not they're going to win convincingly. And Josh Allen is just he's superhuman right now. Some of the throws he's making, like the wins were just ridiculous last weekend, and he's still throwing the ball 40, 50, 60 yards downfield, no problem accurately. It's just it's admirable what the Bills have built because this is a franchise 4 years ago that it just seemed like they were kind of lost, and now it's just like no, they are the powerhouse. To me, they are the gold standard of how you build a team. The only thing that's left for them is actually with the Lombardi, and I think this is the game that could really determine if they're going to do that because being in Buffalo, you can just tell they feed off that. And look, I don't expect Kansas City to lose many games this year, so this is the time where Buffalo they have to win this.
Kansas City, like I've been mentioning the last couple of times that we've talked about them, they're beating you in different ways than they did in years past. They have a top 5 offense in the league, Allen. And from like scoring standpoint, from offensive yardage standpoint, receiving yardage standpoint, it's like, yeah, you lose Tyreek Hill, but you got to trust the infrastructure with Mahomes and Andy Reid there and Bieniemy, where you know that they know what they were doing by getting rid of him. They saved money on the cap. They got all these draft picks. Now this window for Kansas City with Mahomes is going to stay open longer. And I think Kansas City right now is coming into this game healthier than what Buffalo is with some of these injuries. You're right about Von Miller, dude. Like, I felt like Von Miller was going to be one of those contracts where you're going to look back and be like, oof, it's a little expensive for a situational pass rusher, right? But
at his age
also, yeah. But he's been amazing for them. And it's still like Travis Kelce's still playing at a super high level. I think on the commentary, they were talking about he's 33 now or 34 years old, and he scored 4 touchdowns on Monday Night Football, which is ridiculous. He has 7 touchdowns this year, and Mahomes has thrown, as I have right, he's half of his touchdowns have been to Travis Kelce. He's thrown 15 on the year. And to me, I think the craziest thing that has happened in Buffalo has been, dude, Gabe Davis is the truth, bro. This isn't just a one game, one day. This is the game where he popped off last year, right? He scored the 4 touchdowns against them last year in the playoffs. But he's become a legitimate, he might be the best number 2 receiver in the league.
T. Higgins, that's something to say about that.
Higgins, Godwin, Julio? We throw Julio in there?
No, unfortunately, unfortunately not anymore. Now, there's some really good number 2s out there. But no, Gabe Davis look, he's just a playmaker. I think the only thing with Gabe Davis is got to try to get more time. That's the one thing. Like, you look at his stat lines over the course of his career, it seems like, I don't know how many games he's been even close to 10 targets. Like, he's someone that you should try to get the ball to at least 8 times a game.
Yeah, man. Last week he went crazy. He has 309 yards on the year. He has 11 catches. He also missed a couple of games in the middle of that. But yeah, you're right. Like 6 targets last week, 3 targets the week before, 6 targets, 5 targets. Like, he's not really getting, now that I actually look at his stats and not the recency bias, like that's a pretty rough take about him being the best number 2 wide receiver in the league because he's just not getting the opportunities. But when he does, though, he puts up some big games. And I think
just need more consistency.
Yeah. Well, he's going to need to get the ball more in order to be. But you're right. You're right. Which defense do you trust more?
Oh, Buffalo, absolutely. I'm pretty concerned about Kansas City defense. I did not expect them to get just completely run over by the Raiders. I know Raiders are quietly building a really good ground game, but that's still an offensive line that's a work in progress. And I thought they were getting bullied a lot. They were missing a ton of tackles. And then I think losing McDuffie has been a bigger loss than I initially expected because I didn't expect him. Like, he had a great week 1, but then he got injured. And I don't know. I thought maybe Spags would be able to, kind of hide the cornerback play like he has in years past. But I don't know. It's Kansas City defense. I know they kind of make timely plays, but I thought they looked really front Monday night, and I'd be concerned about them.
Yeah, I think I would go with Buffalo's for sure. Which quarterback do you prefer? Which quarterback do you think is having a better year so far?
Better year, I would go with Josh Allen. I can't pick when it comes to preference. I just think, but Josh Allen, Even though he might have a pick or two more, I just think he has some games where he is just completely eviscerated defense. Like that Pitt this last week. Oh my
What do you have?
goodness.
Over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns in the first half?
Yeah, like it was just scary.
They
Like, he
should have
just
they should have let him go for like 9 touchdowns, bro. Break the record. Like at that point, throw for 700 yards, just run it up. Why not? Like
yeah.
how many chances do you have like that where the guy came out so hot? His first completion was that deep bomb.
It's crazy. It's like that wasn't the first time Case Keenum has played snaps. Like the Bills are so dominant now. Like Case
Yeah.
Keenum's getting reps every other week. Like it's unbelievable. And I thought week one, even though the Rams are clearly not the team we thought they were going to be, like I love the fact that the Bills could now do a short game where it's just like, all right, if the Rams can bring extra heat or if Aaron Donald's just completely dominating our guards, get the ball out within 2.2 seconds and just let's dial up short yardage, bang. Like Josh Allen, I think him becoming much more of a decisive decision maker and just understanding I don't need to make a wow play every snap. I could check it down. I hit my first read for a quick 8-yard completion. Like that's the maturation of a quarterback. So, as special as Mahomes has been, I think Josh Allen has been the quarterback this year. And I think he'd be the top MVP candidate.
Yeah, it seems like whoever has a bigger game in this one is going to be spearheading the MVP conversations, even though they are already. But I think the guy that shows out more, I think, will be the favorite come Monday. And
Yeah.
it's funny because we always would have these conversations. Like if you knew for certain that one quarterback was going to have his A+ game, who would you take in the whole NFL? And I think these are the two answers. Like if you knew for a fact, and what's dope is we got to see that, man. We got to see both of these guys have their absolute apex A+ game. And you saw how fun that was. That's one of the best games of all time, dude. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, but like the level of quarterback play in that game in the playoffs was wild. And if we could have that replicated, it'd be dope.
The way the season's headed, I think we're gonna get it.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Kansas City, bro. I think Kansas City reminds Buffalo that, hey, yo, you still got to go through us. So I think Kansas City at home takes care of business.
I think I want to mention the stats that I think I saw no defense. Kansas City is facing the most man coverage in the league. Like 40% of defense are playing man coverage against them because they're just tired of the teams could understand. Let's just try to go at their receivers and try to match up with Kelsey. But I wonder if the Bills, given that they come coverage, maybe they'll adjust their looks. I think from a schematic standpoint, it'll be fascinating just to see because look, you give Mahomes clean look, he's going to nail it. So this is obviously tough to pick, but I'm going to go with Buffalo. I like what I see from the defensively. I'd be very concerned with Kansas City. Orlando Brown, I think, has had a pretty disastrous start, and I do wonder if he's just not a good fit for what they're doing and having a 370-pound left tackle in that kind of offense. I don't think it's working. But you saw Chandler Jones, who's had a pretty down year, just kind of eat him up on some snaps, so we know what Max Crosby can do. Bill's got a lot of edge rushes, man. Greg Rousseau, Boogie Badgham, what's the name? AJ Espinoza, like they're deep. So I just think the Bills are more loaded right now. I think they're just playing better, and I trust them to get this win here, even though it would be nice if Dawson Knox or Isaiah McKenzie would be healthy. But I think the Bills have enough firepower on both sides of the ball to win this.
The last game is the other banger of a game, which we were mentioning before about this could potentially be a conference championship game. And it's the Cowboys going into Philly. Philly is a 5.5-point favorite right now. You have Cooper Rush on this winning streak. You have Philadelphia is still the lone undefeated team. The way I'm viewing this one, Alan, is the Eagles' defense is very, very good. They have a lot of playmakers. I think their cornerbacks are sick. I think Cox is still playing at a high level. And this could be a game where that 5 to 10 minute conversation we had earlier in the pod about me saying Dak Prescott should sit and have Cooper Rush in, this could look really bad come Monday. And I think that Philly is in line to put it on Dallas this week.
I mean, Philly is definitely the clear favorite. I think they're obviously the most loaded team that I see just the way they're playing. If you want to think of like a only real concern is that they're kind of banged up right now. Jordan Mailata, their stud left tackle, is injured. Jason Kelsey got hurt against Cardinals, and I think Land Dickinson with their top guard. So like they were pretty beat up on the O line, and you kind of saw in that Cardinals game. I think Jalen Hurts' average depth of target was like 3.8. It was like Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts had like the lowest average depth of target. Like they were throwing lots of line scrimmage or it's like a quick slant to Devontae Smith or screens to Dallas Goedert. So the reason why obviously it's a big concern is we know Dallas' defensive line could take over games. So if there's a way for Dallas to avoid this game becoming a shootout, is just obliterate that defensive line, which looks a bit fragile right now given the injuries. Even though we know if they're full strength, we know the Eagles' offensive line could bring it.
What do you think of CeeDee Lamb as a receiver? Do you think he's a number one receiver in the league? Or do you think he needs to have someone at his level of receiver or better for him to really flourish?
Yeah, I don't think he's a true alpha number one. I do think he's obviously very good, but I think they use him in the slot a lot to create those mismatches. But if you're depending on the outside to be the man, I don't think he's that player. So no, I'm encouraged with CeeDee Lamb because I think the fact that he's still been for the most part, like I think besides the Rams game since Cooper Rush is in, he's averaged 75 yards or a touchdown in every game. So he's clearly making plays. I wouldn't want to depend on him to be like, say, a Justin Jefferson of your offense or Cooper Kupp. Like, I don't think CeeDee Lamb could be that guy. You try to force feed 12, 14 targets a game and kind of be successful.
It's not just his presence, right? It's also, like, dude drops the ball a lot too, man.
Yeah, he had an ugly drop on third down against the Rams. I remember that.
He has some drops where you're like, damn, that could have been like a 30-yard gain and a touchdown. And then it's just, now you're punting. So that's the issue that I have with him. And you've seen Deontay Johnson in the past had the same issues, young, coming into the league, and then eventually he cleaned that up. It's also year 3 for CeeDee Lamb.
Well, I don't think Deontay Johnson's cleaned that up.
Well, he did last year.
He's had about 4 bad drops.
Yeah.
He's had 4 very bad drops.
He's going backwards. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, what do you think of...
I love Deontay Johnson, but no. Yeah.
What do you think of Miles Sanders? And him, is this finally the Miles Sanders that we've been waiting for and clamoring for all these years? Or has it just been me that's been high on him?
No. I think he's running with more patience. Like to be, I think running behind the offensive line, like you're obviously going to get holes, but now he has the vision to actually see it. Like to me, he's running hard, but it's just getting those holes and finishing them. Like I'd be very encouraged by Miles Sanders because it's just. I still think in the red zone, like they have so many different options. He might not get those red zone carries necessarily. Like we saw against the Cardinals, like Jalen Hurts, 2 touchdowns at the 1. But no, Miles Sanders, like the big plays there. And I think what we saw in his rookie year, we've been waiting for, and now he could carry it 15, 20 times a game, no problem.
The Dallas Cowboys are 7-3 in their last 10 games against the Eagles. One thing about I know Dak Prescott, it hasn't been official that he's going to be out. There are some rumblings of him potentially playing. He's been a killer of the NFC East. Like his record against the NFC East is outrageous, and that's what you want, right? You want to be able to dominate the teams in your division. 7-3 are the Cowboys against the Eagles, but there's also a different.
Don't we think it's a little inflated though? We have to talk. Like I know the NFC East now, the jokes are done, but. Let's not dismiss what looks like these past 5-6 years.
Yeah, you weren't exactly playing 10 and 12 win teams every year.
Yeah.
And you did catch a lot of those teams on either complete rebuilds or just, tail end of Eli Manning, which was not fun.
Right.
So like
I compared Dak Prescott's record against the NFC East to like Bill O'Brien's record against the AFC South.
That's a good one.
That's how bad the divisions were.
He won like 3 straight divisions, right? Shout out to Bill O'Brien, though. That dude. Yeah. Shout out. I remember one year I bet them they were like 5-1 the first year that they won that. So he's good in my book, man. He helped me cash that ticket. What do you think of this game? How does this game play out as we start to wind down?
Oh man, like I really want to see what this Dallas front can do because obviously Micah Parsons there isn't a game that goes by that he doesn't make a 2 or 3 jaw-dropping plays. DeMarcus Lawrence has been outstanding the past few games, and type of Torrance Armstrong coming on, and then we have Dante Fowler. Maybe like Dallas is just loaded up front, and Anthony Barr's giving them good snaps too.
He's been a
So
surprise. He's been a good pickup for them. He's played well. I thought the last couple of years in Minnesota, he was not the player that he was when he came into the league, but he's been super helpful. And I didn't mention him before, but Jalen Smith with the Giants has made some plays too. And he's a guy who he left Dallas, bounced around a little bit, and now he found a home with the Giants. And like Anthony Barr, I know he didn't bounce many places, like he signed with the Cowboys, but I think the level of expectation for what it was when they signed Anthony Barr to how he's playing now has been, I'd be happy if I was a Cowboy fan. And also just one last thing I wanted to push back on. You said about like, how is this front going to like perform? Do you mean that by like, how do you mean that? Because I feel like at this point, you got to expect them to just be so dominant week in, week out.
But they're going against one of the best O-lines. They're not 100% right now, but like, look, Lane Johnson's still one of the best. Samal, the right guard, he's blowing people up, and I think Kelsey will play, and Kelsey's as bell tested it gets. So this is these are two premier units going at it. So that's really exciting. And even on the other side of the ball, like I don't think neither line's elite, but like Dallas O-line's playing really well, and Philly, we know the pass rushers they have. So I think the trench battles on both sides of the ball, it's probably going to decide this game, even though I know that there's a huge discrepancy at quarterback. But look, Dallas has kind of proven they could put together game plans where they could hide the quarterback's limitations, and if they can make it a game where it's high teens, low 20s, they could certainly win. But I'm ultimately picking the Eagles.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick Philly as well. I think
because we didn't talk about their weapons. Like, man, they quietly have. I know I talk about San Fran having the best receiving trio, but right now, man, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert.
Dude, I've been talking up their weapons this whole year because I feel like with A.J. Brown coming over, everyone fell into their role that they could flourish in. You also have randomly have like Quez Watkins stretches the field for them also. Like that's a big part. Every team needs a guy like that. And then you have the reliable tight end. You got the alpha wide receiver and A.J. Brown. And then you got Smith as well. Like, I think this offense is buzzing too. And then Jalen Hurts he doesn't need to do too much. And I still don't think we've seen like the ceiling game for Jalen Hurts. Like Jalen Hurts is going to have a 4-touchdown throwing to like that Michael Vick Monday Night Football game. He's going to have one of those games. Like he's that.
Wow.
Because of the skill position players, bro. And he can run the ball. Like, you haven't even seen that 50 fantasy point performance from Jalen Hurts. And it's coming. It's definitely coming. And if he wants to win MVP, like a couple episodes ago, I was talking about how Jalen Hurts isn't going to have the numbers to win the MVP. Like, especially with Mahomes, he's throwing 15 touchdowns. Josh Allen is going to throw all these touchdowns, and the teams are going to be top seeds. Like, it's going to be you can't just not have throwing touchdowns if you're Jalen Hurts. So this could be a primetime also division opponent that's coming in hot. It's going to be interesting, but I'm on Philly too, bro.
Yeah. I just think right now just too much talent. You look at them, like I don't know who in the NFC could truly compete with them. Like you really have to make this a dogfight. And I do think Dallas can make it nasty, but it's just I don't think they have enough offensively, and I just think Philly, they just have too many weapons not to break open 3-4 explosive plays. Like I could see A.J. Brown. I want to see how Trayvon Diggs. I know he was on the receiving end of a 75-yard touchdown against Cooper Kupp, but these are the type of matchups where I fear for Trayvon Diggs because he's so aggressive, and if you're aggressive against A.J. Brown, he will clown you. So I'm very much looking forward to that matchup.
Hey man, Diggs is high risk, high reward. He plays very aggressive. That's why he led the league in interceptions last year. But then also you see he overplayed Cooper Kupp there, and then he got torched for a 75-yard touchdown. It was. So
yes.
It's going to be fun, man. This is definitely a good weekend. You have a marquee game in every time slot that's going to take up one of the monitors for sure. And it's been a while since I've been able to say that about the New York Giants. So I'm excited for that. And then you got these banger of games, which are they could ultimately decide who wins their conference. And I know it's only week 6, but it's going to set the tone for the rest of the year. So I'm pumped. I'm excited. VeteransMinimum.com is you can find all things Veterans Minimum. Nick Day is 10 is where you can find me. Alan, where can they find you?
Alan Stirk, ALLENSTRK.
We'll catch you guys next time.